Hey, welcome everyone to the RSP Film Room. I'm Matt Waldman, and today's guest is Mark Schofield with Inside the Pylon. Mark, welcome back to the show. It was great having you on with Carson Wentz. It'll be great having you on this week.
Well, thanks for having me back, man. I'm glad you invited me back. I made the cut. I was pretty excited about that.
Absolutely made the cut. I think we had enough folks that were probably after that Carson Wentz show that were like, we could probably have Mark on every week if we could. That would be nice. And I'm like thinking, well, I can't pay the dude to do that. So
I should be paying you.
Oh, well, I think we're gonna have fun then. So Today, I'll let you introduce who we're watching and why.
Really? All right. Well, We're going to be watching Jared Goff, the California quarterback. We don't know for sure. He hasn't announced that he's leaving, but all signs seem to indicate that, yeah, he's entering the draft. And he's another one of these prospects that we see like every year that, people, there's no middle ground, it seems, on him. If you scan through like the evaluation world, if you pull up Twitter some days, it's either you love him or you hate him. And maybe I'm going to end up on one of those hills. I have a way which I'm leading right now, which we'll probably get into. But yeah, I think he's going to be a fun eval. I've been looking forward to this show, and I'm really curious because I know that you've watched a little bit. I know you haven't watched this particular game, but really excited to see what you're thinking about him, what your thoughts are, what you see.
And I can tell you off the bat, I've watched about 10 quarterbacks. I probably have watched another 5 or so between now and next week. Hopefully a few more than that. But I have a preliminary ranking this year. I haven't really talked a lot about that. I'm doing rankings as I go right now with players. I haven't done that in the past, but the process that I have now is allowing me to do it. I don't pay ton of attention to it because I know I have to see more about each player. But I watched Jared Goff's worst statistical game, and it was against Utah, where you said he threw 5 interceptions in that game, and he still came out as one of the better quarterbacks I've seen thus far. So he's been pretty high up there, and I'm getting a little freaked out because something here is here we go. Something on my screen is making me get some sort of
Are you getting hacked?
I don't think I'm getting hacked, but I'm getting like music on my I'm getting music on my screen, and I don't know what it is. So let me see what I can find out what that is. This is completely odd. It's kind of throwing me off completely because I'm about to talk, and then all of a sudden I'm hearing like commercials go on. I think I got rid of it. So
there we go.
Sorry about that.
Hey, live TV, nothing like it.
Yeah, live TV, nothing like it at all. So
but you were saying about you've looked at 10 guys so far.
Yeah. So and Goff is he's at the top of the list right now, and that may change just because I need to see a lot more of each player before I get a true score based on my process for what I do.
Yeah.
But I, like you, I liked him a good bit, and I felt like that there was a lot to offer that was worthwhile. So I'm just gonna, we're gonna get started. If you haven't seen the show before, we're gonna get to watch film of a player that we see cut-ups from on Draft Breakdown. We're gonna just talk about what we see in terms of what Jared Goff does as a quarterback, what we see from him as a football player as a whole. We'll talk a little bit about technique, strategy, mindset, all sorts of things that go into evaluating a football prospect with the idea that he is trying to make it in the NFL. And before we do that, I will let you know that the video that we're going to watch are a part of the under the Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, that there's an allowance made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. And fair use is use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit educational personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. about this video that we're watching of Jared Goff against the USC Trojans. So
Nice.
that's what I'm gonna try and say there, because I was gonna pull up the other one we use, but
the draft breakdowns one.
Yeah, but I keep getting music, so I'm gonna stop doing that because I don't think I can do two things at once anymore.
I think you nailed all the big points. So
okay, good. And as someone who can serve as
your legal counsel,
yeah, or at least advisor in this situation, we're in good shape.
That works. I think we're good.
Okay, good.
I could dust off a copyright textbook. I've got one around here somewhere.
Awesome. Let's not do that.
I don't want to. It's got a lot of dust on it, man.
Okay, cool. All right, so let me get this pulled up, and we will be good to go and get through the hijinks here. All right.
There we go.
Sweet. All right, and you let me know whether we want to go. Let's start with half speed because that seemed to work for us before.
Yeah.
And then we'll give it a run from here.
Yeah, it's just a tunnel screen, but he kind of sells it well. Keeps, expanding the drop, sucks that edge defender in a little bit.
Yep, looking away from the intended receiver.
Yeah.
I mean, it's right on the hands in a spot where he gives his receiver lots of room here to move. This is an underrated. I mean, and it's such an underrated aspect. The short game is such a big part of quarterbacking.
Especially in the NFL. I mean, you look at what teams like the Patriots do, where the short passing game is just an extension of the run game. And, that's what they're doing here. I mean, it's just a long handoff, but he executes it pretty well.
Yeah. A lot of shotgun, a lot of spread.
Looks. I mean, if you're somebody that wants a quarterback that's skilled and experienced under center, well, you might not want to watch. I don't think you're going to see it.
True. But, this is what the NFL is evolving towards, at least for a good bit of its teams. And they're teaching their quarterbacks, they're expecting their quarterbacks to learn the concepts that are more traditional pro style things as well.
I like that.
Yeah, me too. Would we dare say that the NFL is actually changing a little bit?
I think we've chatted about this before, and maybe. I mean, I think with Marcus Mariota, we're starting to see, maybe they're changing the way in which they're going to handle a quarterback transition.
Yeah. I mean, and you can even start. You could probably even start with RG3 and say that was part of it too.
Yeah. That's probably even a better example. But yeah, I like this play here because he sees the blitz coming and he knows, he comes out of that fake and comes right to that slant route right behind where that blitzer comes from.
What do you think of the form there?
I mean, it's wide base. I think he's more focused on getting it out quick than anything.
Yeah. And what do you and why don't you tell everyone about, as a former quarterback yourself, talk about your view of form, function, technique, and kind of your perspective on it as a whole in the scope of evaluating this position.
I mean, mechanics and such, they're something that you definitely look at because you want a compact, quick throw in motion that comes from a shorter, narrower type base with a short lead step because it accelerates the time from, decision to release. So it's definitely something that you look at. It's not like a critical factor. But, what we're seeing here, this is a function of the situation. He's taken that deep step with that right foot to disengage from that mesh fake with the running back. And rather than reset, get that narrow throw in structure, he's just going to get this ball out because of the situation, because of the blitz, because of the coverage scheme. So, it's not precision mechanics on this play, but it's a function of the situation. And the mental processing that we're seeing from Jared Goff here on display, I think overshadows the slight little flaws in technique.
Yeah, and I think that's great perspective on it because, again, he wouldn't be doing this if he didn't know he could do it this way.
Right.
He wouldn't be on the field if he couldn't do it.
Right, exactly.
So yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, there's function, there's functional work, and then there's, in theory.
Right.
Got a little flash of a pump fake there.
Yep. I really like this play too, and it just goes in the books for a 7 or 8 yard gain, but it's nice because he works through progressions here. The little pump fake there, and then he comes back to the left side, and he shows. And there's actually a replay angle of this that will show you a little bit of patience because he has to wait for an underneath defender to clear, so he climbs the pocket and throws his receiver open here. And you'll see it kind of on the replay.
And we're going to see that replay in a minute, but you get the hint from the fact that he hitches a few times here. That's a sign that he's waiting. And I think that's kind of the fun. I know that people are like, well, the all 22, but I kind of have fun with these angles because as you get more experience, you start to say, okay, I bet you dollars to donuts I know what's going on up here based on what he's doing with his feet down here.
And it's always nice when you then get the replay and you're like, all right, good, I was right. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, now we're gonna get the flash of the pump fake right there.
Yep.
And they react.
Yeah, they react. He manipulates defenders there, and now he's gonna want to throw that curl route. He's gonna wait for that underneath defender to clear right there. So he leads him just a bit to the inside.
Yeah.
I mean, nice. That's a nice little throw.
And as you look at his feet here, I mean, he's got a base under him to be able to deliver the ball.
Yeah. And that's getting back to the mechanics discussion a bit. I mean, that's, nice footwork in the pocket, climbing the pocket well, doesn't get too wild with the mechanics, and drives us in there and leads him open.
Yeah.
See, I like that. I mean, I think that's something you can work with.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't think that I look at this and I would almost say submit it without comment. If someone was looking for something negative, I would just say, look, the positives here is you have a patient quarterback who sees the field, knows how to move it around, manipulate it, and he's accurate within a 15, 20 yard range easily on these types of throws.
Right.
All right, so now we get to a little more compressed area of the field. And this I like too, because I was looking at Paxton Lynch last week in the red zone, and he was a little closer in, but talking about you want to be decisive in the red area.
Especially where here, because they send pressure here. They bring safety down to the box. They send both linebackers. So it's just man coverage, cover one, I think. So he just gets it out quick. I mean,
let your teammates do the work.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this when we watched Wentz. Like, why make the game harder? I mean, get your guys with the football in a position to succeed after the catch, and that's what he does.
Yeah,
I mean, it's one of the many like underrated plays that a team needs to pull off to win a game, to finish a drive. And
yeah, it's basic management really when you look at it, and it's about delegating. It's about delegating the tasks, and not being like, well, because I'm the leader, I have to take it all on my shoulders.
Right. I mean, he could have done something differently there. I think a fader out of the top of the screen, but why risk that? Like, just take the easy one.
Same situation here.
Yeah.
And this isn't an easy play, rolling out a little bit and having a defender in your face and having to get that ball over, but not overthrow it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough throw, and it's 4th and 1. I mean, so not, it's a high leverage situation. I know it's early in the game, but still, you want to come away with points there. They do.
Yeah, he knocked down those milk bottles with someone in his face, so that's a failure. Yeah.
He did.
Yeah, so so far we're seeing a lot of like just nice, refined, polished skills.
Yeah.
And good, clear thinking on plays that are supposed to that are kind of gimme NFL expected type of situations.
Little trickery.
Yeah, get the flea flicker from their own end zone. And that's that's nice.
Yeah. I mean, because you think with a play design like this, you're going to want to take a deep shot, but he doesn't. He comes off and he comes to the comeback route over here. I mean, his throw kind of sails a little bit, but that's a long throw. I mean, you come in left hash to right sideline, which is, kind of the standard measuring stick. Can a quarterback make that throw?
Yeah. And we're talking about really a 25-yard throw from the opposite hash
to the sideline. I mean, that's a long distance. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can tell you right now, I mean, just for the fun of it, I've been kind of tracking this a little bit. And of those 10 quarterbacks I looked at, one of the things that I can tell you, let me see if I can find it here. When I look at opposite hash accuracy, or, guys who can get it within, 30 yards, there's only 4 of them I've seen out of the 10 who can hit a 30-yard throw from the opposite hash with a reasonable level of accuracy to get it to the receiver. The other 6 have been really at 15 yards. 5 of them have been at 15 yards or less, and 1 has been at 20 yards or less.
Right.
And some of that's exposures to what I've seen thus far, but I wouldn't be surprised if it stays that way.
Yeah. That would seem to make sense. I mean, given the difficulty there, I mean.
Yeah. All right, so this is an interesting play.
Yeah.
What do you want to comment on first?
I mean, the good is I see a guy fighting in the pocket, using play strength and competitive toughness to stay upright. I mean, this isn't a blitz situation. It's 4 rushers, but he gets pressure immediately. He should go down here, but he doesn't. He manages to stay upright. Right there, he still wants to throw, but realizes, look, I got to alley to the sidelines. I'm going to get the first down. It's 3rd and 6. And he almost gets it. Now, the issue is, and we talked about this before we went live, at some point he's going to need to just get down.
Yeah.
And, it looks nice. It looks competitive. It looks like a guy that if you're a teammate of his, you want to play with, you want to fight for as well. But, when that's Luke Kuechly bearing down on you next season, you just got to get down.
Yeah, you have to pick your spots to do this. A good contrast was Cody Kessler. I saw him last night against Stanford.
Yeah.
And Cody Kessler plays for USC, for those of you who may not know. And there was a 3rd down play late in the 3rd quarter, and they were down, I believe, by 10 in that game. And in that situation, he does pretty much this and gets them inside the 5-yard line, actually inside the 2. To get the first down, and fights through doing exactly this. He makes a little move to the outside, spins away from contact, and then gets in towards the red zone. And on that play, I can see that because you're down. It's getting later in the game.
And you guys need to play.
Yeah.
It's early 2nd quarter in a tie game. And
yeah, we still need you for 2 quarters.
Yeah.
And I love the balance here to be able to do this, but again, in the NFL, these are the type of plays that what stinks is like, where that ball ends up being, where you're trying to maintain your balance, and it's like, okay, do you really want that ball flashed like that in the NFL? Probably not, because there's probably going to be a guy right here like knocking that ball loose.
And not only that, I mean, you don't want to. It's like Bull Durham. Don't hit the drunk guy in the bar with your pitching hand.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that's what he's doing. I mean, you're just waiting for somebody. I mean, if that's against Miami, what's Ndamukong Suh going to do to that arm?
Yeah, exactly. Are we going to see more that we can call Jared Goff Nuke Lelouch? I hope not. But.
I hope not too, my friend. I love the first half of this play.
Wow. Okay, so yeah,
because he wants to throw. This is that like Y cross concept where you get that tight end in that inside trips guy. He's coming across. and he wants to throw that route, but that backside safety doesn't bite, doesn't crash down. So he looks there first and comes off it. And I just really like that. Now he's going to make a throw because pressure's coming. So he throws a vertical seam route and puts his guy, throws a 50-50 ball here, but they get the DPI. But I really love the understanding of the concept that he's got to work with here. And he comes off that route quickly enough to be able to make another decision and throw within the structure of this play.
That's very nice. And I see what you're saying about the safety.
Yeah.
Because we're going to see that safety right there.
Yep. And that's the route that he wants to throw first. I mean, that's the, again, we can talk about context. I mean, trying to, you look at playbooks that run this design, and that's kind of the read first, is that cross route, then to the seam, then to the curl. Now, I don't know if California runs it the same exact way, but I've got enough context clues to think that that's what he's doing. That's what he's looking at. And the film seems to point us in that direction.
So what are your thoughts about quarterbacks who are willing to throw the ball in a 50-50 situation like this?
I mean, especially within the structure of the rules in the leagues, both at the NFL and the college level, you get rewarded more often than not by doing it.
Yeah.
So why don't you? Why not take a shot on a 50-50 shot, especially when you've got athletes on the outside? We were just talking about, don't take it on yourself. Let guys around you make a play. Well, that's what he's trying here. I mean, you're giving your wide receiver a shot to make a play down the field. And it used to be when he threw a football, 3 things could happen. 2 of them were bad. Well, now there's another, and it's pass interference, and guys are getting rewarded for it. So why not try to take advantage of that? And I mean, that's just me. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the spirit of Woody Hayes is dead. I mean,
I think so.
Sorry, family who all went to Ohio State, but I think that's long gone, especially in the NFL. And when you look at
Matt Waldman it was such a wordsmith, man. I mean, that was brilliant. I love that.
Scary. But when you look at this situation, I mean, I almost look at it as it's a different mindset. That Woody Hayes maxim is great, but it's such a iconic way of putting it. But then you could also say, well, nowadays you look at this and say, well, one situation is that you end up with a big reception. Right. The other situation is that you end up with a pass interference against them. Yep. And then probably the third situation is that you've just thrown a punt.
Yep.
And it's 7-7 in a early in the half where it's not an insurmountable thing.
No, it's not. And here, you've flipped that 2 out of 3 on its head, and now 2 of the possibilities are a benefit for your team. So
yeah, and if it turns out to be an offensive penalty, well, now it's 2nd and 15, 2nd and 25. I think it's a 15-yard penalty.
Yeah, I think so.
2nd and 25, deep in your own territory, you run the ball a couple of times, and then and you follow Woody. So that's
and upstairs, Woody smiles.
Yeah, exactly. As long as he doesn't grab me by the face mask, but I'm not a Clemson player, so I'm okay.
I mean, that's true.
That's true.
I guess he wouldn't be grabbing Clemson.
Yeah, I watched that game with my dad. I remember him.
Really?
Yeah, I watched that game. It was the Gator Bowl, and I remember seeing that game with him. And he left the room, and I wondered why he left. I was like, "Wow, he hit him, Dad!" Like, he actually hit him. And
even just watching the clips of it, it's just like, did that really just happen?
Yeah, it was like so out of character. It was so crazy, and it was. And I just remember my dad leaving the room, and he was just like, "Yeah, he's gone. He's not. He won't be back." His career just ended, and I was just like, wow. So yeah, now we get to see that in all its glory here, but let's move on.
I think we've covered this one.
Yeah, right. All right, there we go. Another tunnel screen.
Yeah. I mean, throws a little high, but it's still receiver. The timing's good. The receiver's moving upfield as he catches it. I mean,
yeah, these are plays I don't like nitpicking. Like I'll write that, it's a little high, but I'm not going to sit there and say he lacks pinpoint placement in the short game.
Right. And the thing about this is, again, sample size of 1 hair, but when I made those throws, it was a harder throw than it looks because it happened so fast from catching the snap to getting it out that you just want to get it there.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't really worry too much about putting it perfectly because if you're worrying too much and taking too time to place it right, the play's dead.
Yeah. And it's like, I look at these types of things, and it's like we see these stories a lot, or movies a lot, where it's, it's usually based either on a true story, or it's something about how you have one character who doesn't do things exactly by the book, and then you have one who's in conflict with who does, and he's very literal about everything. And I always think of Good Morning Vietnam, where like Robin Williams comes into the base, and Kirby is the commander, and he knows comedy, and like he knows all the elements of what makes something funny, but because he so strictly adheres to every element, that he is the most boring, uptight guy that you will ever imagine.
What was the joke that he tried to tell? And he was like, "See, now that's funny. That's comedy."
Right.
I wish I could remember it right now, but yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I saw it on the other day, and I saw that scene, and I thought, this is kind of like when people over critique technique on.
Does that happen?
Yeah, I think it does. I think people.
I haven't seen it.
I think it's with a newer crowd of people who are still learning, that sometimes what happens is I think that they can tend to say, well, look what he did here, or someone who's maybe new to film study, and they'll ask a question, and it makes sense. You're trying to learn the techniques and learn the ABCs of what's going on, and you may not always see the context clearly enough. Yeah. It's like practicing. It's like someone practicing the piano, and they're practicing some sort of pattern or scale, and it doesn't sound musical at all, but they're doing it right. And you have to hear it over and over again. Yeah. And it just lacks the musicality. That Jared Goff is playing music right here. Yeah. It just, the technique may not be pitch perfect, and you may get hit by the ruler if you were trying to do it that way.
That's a great analogy.
I appreciate it.
Okay. Yeah. Again, this is another example of, if you want to make the argument that Jared Goff is a one read, or can't work progressions, well, just fire up this play.
Yeah. Because we just saw 3.
Yeah. This is looking at Noel Mazzone and how he coaches this route. And again, he's at UCLA. He's not at Cal, but this is a vertical route, then a crossing route, then a backside curl. And your initial read, at least the way he coaches it, is you peek at that vertical route. If you get a nice one-on-one matchup, you can hit something deep, take it. He comes off that quickly because it's covered well. Then the crossing route, that's covered. Finally, the backside curl. And puts it into a nice tight window where only the receiver can make a play.
Yeah, and again, let's emphasize only where the receiver can make the play. This is good ball placement. This isn't about the ball being weak or a weak throw.
Right.
And people may there are newer people who mistake that and go, oh, well, he couldn't even get the ball where the receiver could run with it. And you're thinking, no,
where's he going to run?
Yeah. Exactly. Unless you're Deshaun Jackson, and there's like one Deshaun Jackson.
That's right. No, and then it's 2nd and 9, second and long. You just picked up the first down. I mean, that's nice. That's a nice play. We'll see it here again.
Yeah. All right, so you got these 2 safeties high. Right. He's looking over here.
And then he comes to that. Yeah, that's covered. And he can try to throw that. And we talked about it before. He likes to throw that sideline route and stick it in against cover 2 looks. But he doesn't take that shot there because the cornerback's in good position. So then he comes to that crosser, and that's covered. But then he comes again to that curl route.
And he's anticipating that this corner is going to be coming in from the inside. So it's a nice throw. Gives his receiver a chance to even shield it.
Yeah.
And oftentimes when you look at a throw and see placement, you can see how the receiver has to react to the ball to catch it. And it tells you it can tell you a lot of what the quarterback is thinking here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point about, when you're watching quarterbacks, take a look at how the receivers react. Because it doesn't look like this guy's surprised at all.
No.
He's not surprised. He knows he's the third read, but he's expecting the football.
Yeah.
And you see that sometimes when a guy's a late progression read and he's not even looking for the ball. It's because it hasn't come to him before. Why would he expect it now?
Yeah. And not only he's ready for it in every way. I mean, it's like, yeah, I know I'm going to get down for this. I'm shielding myself.
Yep. The hit's probably coming, but I'm going to make sure of this catch. Yeah, that's a nice play all around.
All right, so here's a question for you because I've wondered this. I saw Kyle Crabb talk about this with NDT scouting. He was referring to a Ron Jaworski, Greg Cosell, Merrill Hodge film session where, talking about the feet of a quarterback and learning the mindset, and I agree with a lot of that in some respects. But I also wonder about things like this. I watch Jared Goff, and when I see him throw, you also see him kind of leaning back a little bit on some of these throws under pressure.
Yeah.
It would be easy for you to look at this and kind of make the assumption, seems a little kind of jittery about getting hit, at times.
Yeah.
And like personally, I look at it and I go, I don't believe that.
No.
But like when I watch it, I get this feeling of, I can see how someone sees that and goes, he looks like someone who's like being, someone who's arachnophobic being shown a spider right now. Like it's not close to them yet, but they still make that little grimace,
Yeah. And I can see where people would say that too. And there are times when it does look like he's a little bit, switching from fight to flight mode. And, the feet are moving. Sometimes they're moving a lot in the pocket. And it looks like he's a guy that's, worried about where the pressure's coming from, where he's going to get hit. This is just a situation where he's making a throwing window. It's kind of like a boxer in the middle of the ring, making room for his punch, taking a little step back to throw the punch. He's just making enough of a window to get the ball out.
Yeah, because he really has 3 defenders.
Yeah.
He's trying to get this ball over.
Yeah.
One at the first level, this nose tackle right about here.
Yeah.
Then he's got the dropping backer here and the safety.
Yeah.
That's quite a throw, actually.
It's a good throw. I think you're right. It's a great throw, and it's an aggressive decision too, and in a nice spot for it. I mean, when you talk about quarterbacks being able to maintain aggression, I mean, this was 2nd and 11. You're near midfield. You just converted the 2nd down, and you got a chance to make a big play. So he's going to take a shot.
Yeah, Eric Stoner, one of the RSP's contributors. I mean, he was talking this week. And I can't use the phrase that he used on Twitter.
I can't imagine why not
to describe it, but he was talking about Blake Bortles making a play where he threw something he threw that touchdown to Alan Hearns on Sunday that was in a really tight spot, and you could probably critique him, rightfully so, for even trying to make that throw. But his point was, look, you want quarterbacks who are willing to make some of these tight window aggressive efforts.
Yeah.
Because it can be the difference, a positive difference in the game. And you can't just always just check things down,
No, you can't. And, it's something that we've talked about. I mean, wait, but before I get to that, did people talk about Blake Bortles at all this week? I can't imagine. I didn't see anything.
Yeah, I don't think any.
I was deleting my Twitter account. No, but on the aggression thing, though, I mean, you can't just throw 5-yard outs. I mean, we talked about it earlier in this game. It's good to do that at times. There are times when that's your best option, but you've got to press the envelope a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely do.
This one, this is actually kind of a good example to talk about the footwork and sort of the negative aspects, I think, because if you watch this one, he keeps the feet moving a little bit too much, I think. Like right when he comes to his drop, he slides a little bit back away from that edge pressure. He knows that blitz is coming off the edge, but it's blocked. I think he could have handled this one a little bit better, and the throws off the mark as a result. I don't know if that was miscommunication or what, but this is one play where I was like, you see that slot blitzer coming. He knows it's going to be blocked. They've got it protected, but he takes that extra roll, and I don't think he needs to do that. Just a really minor thing.
Yeah.
But just, something to take a note of. I mean, he resets and throws very well. I think this is just one where he
Would you say that maybe what he should have done here was, this is a 5-step drop, and it looks like this route's breaking on a 5-step drop.
Yeah.
Should he have dropped 5 straighter, let the pressure get a little closer,
and then climb?
Then climb and throw.
Yeah.
Okay. And he had
room to do it.
Yeah.
And again, it's just, if we're diving into this, we'll dive into it, and it's a minor thing, just something to point out.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I mean, I want to make sure that I'm right there with you in terms of what you're saying, and I can see what you're saying because it's all right. So anyway, we'll move on.
Fourth down.
All right now.
Yep. So he's got that club in the bag.
Yeah.
Landed it nicely too. I mean.
Yeah, if number 1 made a little bit more of an effort there, he might have actually kept that in bounds.
Yeah. That's pretty nice.
Yes, it is. His feet remind me of Brett Hundley's a little bit.
Yeah.
Which is this, it's not he's afraid. It's that it's almost like he's impatient. Like, I know what I want. I want
it to get there. I want to throw it now. I want to throw it now. I want to throw it now.
Yeah. And I don't mind that.
No. I mean, because, the footwork, they are kind of the window into the mind, and there can be different things happening upstairs. It could be panic. It could be impatience. It could be frustration. You don't always know, but I think there it was, I want to throw this. And, going back to that last play before we talk about this, whatever that was, I mean, this is, you're near midfield, 7 seconds left in the half. This is a nice little example of situational football.
Yeah.
I mean, get yourself in position for one more play before the half. I mean, why risk the deeper throw? I mean, I think it's a nice little throw there.
Absolutely. And it's an opposite hash throw.
Yep.
We're looking at from the 29 to about the 50. So we're looking at a 22, 23 yard throw from the opposite hash.
So that was a good throw.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Hail Mary.
All righty.
We don't have to waste too much time on it, but Jared, you got to keep these in the field of play.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that almost landed in the first row. I mean, again, really minor thing, but
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to take a shot, make it a real shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he comes off that first read, which looks like it's a deeper route.
Yep, it's that vertical route. It's the concept we already talked about. He looks at that vertical route. It's not there, which I'd agree with. And then he's looking at that tight end who's in that wing alignment, comes in that crosser, and he might have him right about there. But he comes off of it, probably because of that linebacker. Okay, I get that decision. But now things are really breaking down. He tries to throw that seam route or that corner route, one or the other. Can't really tell because it drops between the two.
Yeah.
Sheds the block pretty well.
Yeah, yeah.
No fights to make the tackle. Give him credit for that.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that's, he got, late in the play clock in his, in his head and made the throw under duress.
Got another tunnel screen.
Yeah. Again, puts it where it needs to be. 2nd and long, get you first down there.
Nice.
Yep. Again, 1, 2, 3rd read.
Yeah. This time it's on the right side is that deeper read.
Yep.
Looks to his
checks left, and then he comes to the middle.
And that check left.
Yep. Occupied that linebacker. Yeah.
Railing right here. Yeah. And it's still nice placement over the top.
Yeah. And, that's a tough window to throw into because you've got underneath guys. You've got those, the two deep safeties. USC did a ton of that in this game.
Yeah. I mean, we're watching intermediate throws of difficulty.
Yep.
And these are pro-style throws that a lot of quarterbacks don't make well. People get enamored maybe with a deep arm of a quarterback, or they say, well, he's got the deep arm and he's got the velocity, but does he have the placement in these areas? And the placement in the intermediate area of the field is probably one of the most important things that you're going to need to display as an accurate thrower.
Yeah, because that's how you keep drives alive. I mean, everybody loves a 70-yard bomb, but a bunch of 20, 15, 20-yard gains in the middle of the field, that opens up those 20-yard bombs.
Yeah.
And that's a nice tight throwing window too.
This is why these throws we're watching are why Matt Ryan and the Falcons are still moving the ball between the 20s in Atlanta right now, despite the fact that they only have one receiver who can win one-on-one right now.
Right. I mean, that's another good throw right there, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And this guy is not someone that defenses can say he's only going to go to one side of the field. He can only hit one area. Defenses have to cover the entire width of the field and the length of the field on every play.
Yep.
His sheer physical tool set and then his ball placement and aggressiveness expands the field that the defense has to cover.
And I don't think we see it in this game, but when you talk about that sideline to sideline again, it's that cover two, throwing it in that window between the safety and the corner. He loves to do that. There's a great example of it against Texas, also their game against San Diego State. But yeah, I mean, if you're a safety trying to play defense against this guy, you got to worry about that vertical route, but you've got to also be cognizant of the middle of the field as well. It makes it tough.
Yeah.
What were we just saying?
Exactly. Yeah. And this is against we've got a slot corner or a slot defensive blitz. And then we have this green dog blitz coming up over here from the linebacker when he sees that the running back is going to stay in and block. And these usually trip up quarterbacks more than anything, is when you have a blitz from one side and then either a green dog or a delayed blitz from the middle.
And what's great is they roll this to a single high coverage when they drop that safety down, and he stares down that safety and holds him, that free safety, holds him in the middle of the field right there. And then he comes to the outside. It's just that subtle glance to freeze him for a step. It probably doesn't, it doesn't mean the difference on this play, but it might mean the difference down the road on another play.
Yep. Because he spent the first 2 seconds looking, and that's a lot of time.
Yep.
And where he leads the receiver, I like this too, because he leads him into the middle of the field to give him a chance.
Yep.
And again, people might criticize this.
I was just going to say, you could hear the criticism coming. Well, he underthrew him. He underthrew him, Matt. What are you talking about? But I think you're exactly right.
And we're talking about from the 12 of the right hash to
the numbers at the
30, 37.
Yeah.
So we're looking at, I don't know, that's a 38-yard plus another 38 plus another 12 we're looking at here, 13 yards. So 51, 52-yard throw from the pitch point to the receiver.
Right hash to numbers,
Yeah, so we're talking about an even longer throw than 53 yards of distance if you cover total area. That's a big-time throw.
Yeah. And if you want to do the math, friends, remember a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So draw the triangle. You can do it. Harken back to your 6th grade geometry class.
There we go. Mr. Stinson would be proud of me if I could do that still. There we go.
But yeah, I mean that kind of has a little bit of everything, and it's an aggressive decision, but he executes it well. He freezes that safety, puts the ball where it needs to be to complete the pass. It's delivered. It's a good example of arm talent. So
yeah,
again, we've had a couple of these. I think you'd agree where if people would say, "Well, I don't think he can do this," all right, well, let me show you this play.
Yeah.
And not that one play is the way to like scout a player, but it's nice to have rebuttals in the pocket. And I say this partially as an old lawyer.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, it's the type of thing that there are certain plays that are repeatable.
Yeah.
If you see them, there are certain plays that are not, but when you look at the way that he threw the ball, it wasn't like he had like several hitch steps that he could make to generate momentum to deliver the ball.
No. Yeah, he stares this one down a bit, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 4th and 10, and now, we're getting to what you were talking about with Cody Kessler. They're down 13. It's the fourth quarter, 4th down. You got to throw the ball somewhere.
Yeah.
Could he have made a better decision and executed it better? Yeah, probably. I mean, it looked like at the bottom of the screen that, one of the inside seam routes was coming open, but he makes this throw, and
yeah, I think we'll see a replay on this one. Let's give it a quick look.
Yeah, I mean that's that's their best receiver, and sometimes the defensive backs make a good play.
Yeah, and this is an anticipation throw.
Yep.
And so he may have anticipated that the receiver was going to get free and just didn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when he threw that ball, the receiver was still tied.
He was still
just before getting tied up.
Yeah.
Probably when he starts that release. So
I mean, yeah, if you look at the stat sheet Sunday morning, you think, oh man, he threw 2 picks. But again, context, right?
Yep. Absolutely. I mean, of the 5 picks he threw at Utah, I know that I think 3 of them weren't his fault. Yeah. And I still he had 2 picks. And I don't even remember for sure if it was all. I thought it was all but one that was really like an egregiously bad decision.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, tripped over his own guy. I mean,
yeah. He goes through a couple progressions, feels the pressure, tries to slide out, and that's life. That happens.
Yep. Things happen. People trip. I do it all the time. But then again, I'm just sitting here in, my little office. I'm not trying to get drafted. So go ahead. Write your evals about me, people. I understand.
I'm going to have to watch you on the stairs at Lad People Stadium.
Tell it. You're saying, oh, man, undraftable, lacks athletic ability, cannot finish a step, takes horrible notes.
What he does well, as long as you have him at the bottom at ground level of the stadium, everything's going to be
That's where he excels.
That's where he excels. Again, brave guy.
Yeah.
He's a little shifty. He's quick enough and shifty for the college level at the highest levels.
Yep.
But he's also inviting this kind of contact.
Yeah. Again, situation, it's late in the game, but that was first down. You could have lived to fight on second down a little bit if you had to. But.
Exactly. But again, that's patience with the throw.
Yeah. Climbs the pocket well.
Yeah, I mean, what I see from him as I'm watching this as the second game and thinking about the Utah game and watching this one, what's coming into focus for me, if I don't see anything vastly different from him with a few more games, is this is a player who at worst projects as a competent NFL contributor.
Yeah.
Who if he can make the NFL caliber reads and decisions, can become a starter in the league and probably be a competent one.
Yeah.
Now, can he become a star? To me, that's the big question that I think that is very difficult for anyone to really answer until you interview a guy, until you and and you kind of see more about how he handles the difficulties of the game.
Yeah, and I think that's a question we're going to see asked of a lot of these guys in this class. I mean, we've talked about how we both kind of think that it's a deep class, but you don't have, like last year, like two guys that you're pretty sure, if everything goes well, they're going to be stars.
Yeah.
Guys like Lynch, Cook, some of the other guys in this draft, you're thinking, okay, there's some draftable qualities there. This is a guy that might be, like you said, a competent NFL starter, but that next leap, is there enough there? And I think, again, it's only December. It's not even Christmas yet. We don't know on a lot of these guys yet.
Yeah. And I think that sometimes, I watch him and I think, here's a guy that you could watch him, and for the first 5 or 6 years, he could probably throw, enough interceptions that fans are going to be like, he's never turning that corner. He's good enough, but he's not going to lead our team. We need to insert the superstar's name here.
Right.
We don't have him. This guy's just makes too many mistakes at the wrong times. And then you can see him like 2-3 years later with a good team around him having an MVP caliber season,
right,
or a Pro Bowl season. And I see that from this guy. Like, I see where he can have that kind of variability. It's like Phillip Rivers.
I was just going to say that. I mean, I think that, not to do a one-on-one comparison, but yeah, I mean, I think it's the same kind of career arc that you can see. Like, is he going to come in and, turn a team around on day one? Probably not. But if you get the right pieces around him, team's going to be successful.
Yeah, there's not much. To me, there's not much difference in terms of ability. Maybe in terms of the way they express their skills, and you would describe their styles are very different. But Jay Cutler and Phillip Rivers are linked for a few reasons, I think. Yeah. And one of them is that one of them got to stick around with the same team and really build his career and have the same coaching staff, or at least have the same system. Same kind of infrastructure around him, enough of it so that when things started to change, he was still with the same players or the same core of people. Whereas Jay Cutler, you see him having to become a gypsy.
Right. And it gets to something that you've written about, and it's so important to remember, is that these are human beings, and they handle the mental stressors of playing this position at the highest level differently. And one of the things that can be an unwelcome stressor to that is uncertainty.
Yeah.
And if you're constantly moving teams or there's changes around you, it adds to the difficulty of playing the position. So like the two guys you mentioned, one gets to stay in a somewhat consistent environment, the other's bouncing around a bit, and it makes a difference.
It does. And I think that we have to understand, especially with quarterbacks, is that oftentimes, as Steve Young has said so often early on when in his broadcasting career, as you just start to hit your prime mentally and understand the game in a way where you feel like you've finally gotten it down, that's when your physical skills are starting to reach a point where they're might be in decline sooner than later, where your late 20s to your early 30s, that 28 to 32 window is probably the best time. And usually that's the time when teams are sick of somebody. Like, they're sick of, you got fans sick of Matt Stafford right now.
You have fans sick of Matt Ryan right now. It's the same thing. And patience is a virtue, I would say. And there are teams, and I think, you've seen articles about it. I think Dave Archibald has written on Inside the Pylon about it. Like, you can think that the next best thing, the next new great thing is the best move for your franchise. But in a lot of cases, it really isn't.
Yeah. Like, you're just setting it back, and you're not sticking. It's about, sometimes it is really about having a sense of loyalty that is based in understanding how the position develops and works.
Right.
And not looking at the bottom line result, but looking at the process. And you can look at Matt Ryan and say, okay, yeah, bottom line process, Matt Ryan was statistically a Pro Bowl quarterback early in his career, and for the past 3 seasons, he hasn't been all that good statistically. Or you can look at it and say, for the first 3 seasons, he had a Hall of Fame tight end. First several seasons, he had a Hall of Fame tight end, a Hall of Very Good receiver who could get open against double coverage on precision routes and Roddy White, had a running game, power running game, and he had a young booming, a young receiver in Julio Jones who could stretch the field.
Right.
Now, what does he have? He has nobody but Julio Jones.
Yep.
And I don't care.
What do you expect him to do with that? I mean,
it was the same thing with Brett Favre down the line when he had a lull in his career in Green Bay where that Donald Driver was really all he had.
Right. And it kind of, to tie it back to Goff, it's what we were talking about when we started, which was, as a quarterback, you want to be able to just sometimes get the ball out to guys that can make plays for you. Don't put it all on your shoulders. Well, when you've got one, maybe two options, it makes it hard to just let guys make plays for you. So then, of course, the natural instinct is to try to put it on yourselves, and that's when mistakes happen.
Yeah, and where it shows up the most is late in games.
Yep.
And in the red zone all game long.
Yeah.
Those are the two toughest situations, and that's where the defense is going to be either more aggressive, and you have to be quicker on the draw and make tighter decisions, and you need players who are able to do the same things right there with you. And if they can't do that, then you're in a hole already to start with. That's why we see quarterbacks who we complain about, but you watch them between the 20s, they move it up and down the field like it's no big deal.
Yeah. But it gets so much harder in the red zone because, again, the field gets so compressed where you had room to let routes develop and stuff, while every throwing window is that much smaller. So when you've got guys that can't get even that extra little bit of separation in those tiny windows, it makes it harder to execute plays.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I can tell you right now, I didn't see anything about Goff that made me change my mind that he's that there were more things to worry about with him. If anything, I continue to see things that validate what I saw at Utah, which is someone who looks, like you said, looks through multiple progressions, has a feel for being able to maneuver the pocket. Maybe he can be a little too active in the pocket at times, like you pinpointed there on that play where he took that half roll. And generally very good accuracy and placement in the intermediate range of the field, and an aggressive mindset to try and win, try to play to win. And those are all characteristics that I very much like from a future starter.
Yeah, I think so too. And, again, using that context word, I mean, does he maybe keep the feet happy a little bit at times? Maybe, but going back to his tape from last year, he was under duress a lot. So there's a sense of, okay, you can almost understand where it's coming from. And if he gets into a situation where protection's a little bit better, more sound around him, maybe that settles down. Maybe he gets off that bicycle a bit and stops pedaling those feet all the time.
Yeah. If someone was saying, because this is what these shows are sometimes about, and we try to refuse to do this, but it's, I think it's fun. It is still, I understand why someone wants to know this. If someone was to put the proverbial gun to your head and say, what do you see for this guy's career? I would say the good side I see is that he could be that future borderline Pro Bowl player with players around him that can lead teams to the playoffs and contend for a championship if he has a strong running game and at least one high caliber receiver that he can throw open. And the bad side I see is a guy who constantly flashes that type of talent, but because he's too reckless with how he will play, and he doesn't shore that up and doesn't mature fast enough, he could always be hurt, and we never get to see enough of him where he gets into a rhythm and feel for the game and gets used to the transition, and he's always transitioning and ends up on a team where you're just like, what could have been, but everyone's like, oh, he was never really that good.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's a great way to put it. And, obviously, we hope it's the former, but it all depends on landing spot, and so much of it is scheme fit and landing spot. And we've talked about this, but yeah, I mean, for so many of these guys, like I don't see one that I could be sure of right now that no matter where he lands, he's going to be okay.
Is there a scheme that you would love to see ideally? Like just, it doesn't matter whether it's realistic.
I mean, that's a tough one because, we see so much of, this sort of like spread kind of what he does. But given his skill set, almost an offense like New England's in a way, where there's a lot of shotgun elements to it. There's a lot of like long handoffs and that quick short passing game. You're not always pushing the ball vertically, but you do it from time to time, and he's showed that he can do it from time to time. Like I see a system like that, Josh McDaniels, and what they're doing out in New England, that old Charlie Weiss sort of system. I think that's a good fit for him because you can go to the run game a bit. You can go a little up-tempo a bit, mix things up a bit, attack the intermediate area of the field, what Brady does so well. He's shown signs of being able to do things like that, attacking between the hash marks, behind the linebackers and in front of the safeties. I don't think he'd be a fit for like a Bruce Arians type to push it vertically all the time. Like that's not his skill set. But kind of that New England offense might make sense. But I don't know. What do you think?
I think that makes sense because you know, I do think that if you could, I do also see a system though where a team says we can get him to work from under center and we can do a lot of play action with him.
Yeah.
He has that kind of mobility where we can let him roll out a little bit and throw the ball, and he can do some nice work. You know, the old Shanahan style of what they did, you know, I think can make some sense with that. But I would agree with you. I would probably rather see him in a spot where he can be more of the conductor of the train, and not that the running game is the conductor for him.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. And, you know, it just depends on, you know, looking at the teams that might need a quarterback. I mean, I don't know if there are any scheme fits from that perspective that makes sense. I mean, you know, I've seen, you know, San Francisco as a landing spot for him early, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Well, you know, a lot of questions about this quarterback class, very intriguing class as you get a little bit of a chance to see from our discussion here today. And as always, Mark, it was a pleasure.
Loved it, man. Every time.
Absolutely. And it's going to be fun. Mark and I'll get a chance to see each other at the Senior Bowl, and hang out a little bit and watch some players up close there. But everyone, thanks again for tuning in. You can find more of these videos at YouTube at the RSP Film Room channel or at my blog, www.mattwaldmanrsp.com. And you can check out Mark's work at Inside the Pylon.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. They do great work. I would definitely recommend it.
You're too kind, my friend.
So definitely do that. And you guys have a good weekend and have a happy holiday if we don't have another one before then.
Bye, everybody.